Time now for our Entre Nous segment, and today we're going to be focusing on a landmark conference kicking off in Colombia's capital aimed at ending violence against children. Each year, an estimated 1 billion children experience some form of violence, which includes physical, emotional, or physical abuse or sexual abuse. The governments of Colombia and Sweden have joined forces along with UN agencies, including the World Health Organization, for the first ever ministerial conference to take place in Bogota. We can now bring in Mié Kohiyama, an activist in children's rights and survivor herself. We can also joined by Dr. Etienne Krug, director at the Department of Social Determinants of Health at the World Health Organization. Thank you both so much for joining us on the program today. Mié, I'd like to start with you. Tell us your story.
So I'm a survivor of childhood sexual violence. I was assaulted by an adult cousin when I was 5, and I had 32 years of repressed memory. And I was the first victim in France to go to the Supreme Court to acknowledge a mechanism that's called repressed memory that prevented me to file a complaint in the times that are the times limit of statute of limitations. And now I have become a child rights activist. I'm in a collective movement and a Brave Movement executive member. Brave Movement is the first international survivors movement that is proud to be a part of the conference today in Bogota.
Dr. Etienne Krug, what exactly is a repressed memory for viewers who don't know?
Morning from Bogota. Repressed memory is when the body defends itself from the trauma that somebody may have lived, like in Mié's case, sexual abuse, and where, as the words say, that the memory is just suppressed and the body blocks out that event for a very long time until at some stage it comes back and the person has to deal with all of the consequences of that.
And Mié, just so I can understand well, in your adult life, when you had this flashback of these memories, how did you go about helping yourself? Did you go seek therapy?
That's a very good question. Like many survivors of childhood sexual violence, I search for therapists, but there is a study in France that shows that survivors of childhood sexual violence, it takes 13 years to find the right trauma-informed therapist. So it's a very long road for a survivor. And one of the pillars of our action of the Brave Movement is healthcare for survivors. And it's a very long road, and it's a very difficult road.
Dr. Krug, some of the health risks, what are some of the health risks associated with violence against children?
The health risks associated with violence are quite broad. We know that, of course, there's the injuries and sometimes the death, but the mental health impact is very often huge, with people children having been a victim of violence, having nightmares, anxieties, but also depression later in life, all the way up to suicide sometimes. We also know that victims of violence are more likely to smoke, to abuse alcohol, drugs, which are risk factors for cancer and cardiovascular diseases. We also know that victims of sexual violence can suffer sexually transmitted diseases, unwanted pregnancies. So we're talking about a very big public health issue. In addition to public health, violence also has an impact on educational achievements. Victims of violence often have difficulties at school, which has an impact on their later employment. So this is a very big societal issue as well.
I'm just curious to either one of you. Mié, let me go across and ask you this question, because how do you go about policing violence against children, considering that most children are growing up in households and children, it's difficult to get adults to talk, and it's even more difficult to get children to talk?
Well, as you know, the private is politic in this matter, because we have to be aware that each one of us should have in mind the superior interest of the child. And it's true that intrafamiliar violence and the sexual violence on children happen mostly in the really close circle of the children. But it's beginning to change. In France, we had the Me Too incest survivors of intrafamilial violence, incest are beginning to talk. The authorities, French authorities, but authorities all around the world are becoming aware of this issue. And I want to say that intrafamilial sexual violence is major in matters of sexual violence, and it's also major in matters of sexual violence online, because those parents or caregivers that are committing the crimes in the real life are then sharing the images of the children online, and therefore we have to protect them. We have to find legislation that are more protective, and it's a very, very important issue. In 2023, 300 million children have experienced some kind of sexual violence online.
Dr. Krug, how do you go about educating children in a very delicate way?
Well, first of all, it's not so much about educating children. It's our duty as adults to take responsibility for this issue and to put in place all of the prevention measures that we do know work. And there's a whole series of them that we can implement. And of course, we need to help children to come forward, to understand
exactly,
some of these
that's
issues,
what I meant.
and to be able to speak about these things. So I think the dialogues we are having, like today and in many other fora, breaking the taboo around violence against children, because as Mié very rightfully just said, and you as well, this is happening behind closed doors, at home, at school, in clergy environments, in sports environments. We need to break the taboo around that and facilitate the dialogue so that children can come forward much earlier.
Mié, what are you hoping this gathering in Bogota will achieve?
Well, first of all, it's a momentum. Really, it's fantastic to be. We are a lot of survivors are here. A lot of youth are mobilized here. For the first time, 130 ministers or countries and ministers are here. So it's a really historical moment. And what we hope are concrete and bold engagements, followed by resources, by political will to implement those engagements, and we'll be there even after the conference as civil society to hold governments accountable for their engagements in Bogota.
Dr. Krug, final word from you. What sort of pledges are you expecting to get made here?
We're very excited. As Mié said, this is going to be a turning point. When we embarked 2 years ago on planning this conference, we had no idea if people would come. We have 130 countries, 80 ministers, 1,000 people from all over the world coming, and over 101 countries have made pledges. What's a pledge? A pledge is really an official promise. They're going to make it today in public, in the conference room, of taking action. For example, 10 countries are going to pledge to ban corporal punishment in all settings. This is a milestone because it has taken 70 years since the first one did it, and we only have 60 countries now who've done it, and 10 more in one conference is going to be fantastic. Another series of countries are going to pledge to improve parenting programs. We know that one of the best strategies to address violence against children is to work with parents for having better parenting. And there's a whole series of other pledges around better services for the victims, better data collection systems, etc. Finally, we also know there's going to be some financial announcement of quite an important magnitude for this field. So we're very much looking forward to that. And of course, working with all of those who made pledges to follow up and help them implement them.
Okay. Mié and Dr. Etienne Krug, thank you both for joining us on the program today. Really appreciate you both taking the time.
Thank you.